Okay, so first apologies to everybody on the stream. We had a bit of technical difficulties, but now we're set and ready to go. Thank you everybody who joined me live. It's really nice to have a conversation. Um, so we had the first session last week. We talked about how to do research, how to do interviews. Why is that important? And by today, you should have created groups, which should have stayed the same from the first part of this class. You have chosen a topic that you're working on, and you did the interviews. So there was a question here regarding how to structure things in FigJam and how to report this and how it should look like. It doesn't have a prescribed look or how things should look, because also what you'll see when you come to the industry, when you start working, there are no fixed processes. It depends on a team. It depends on what we're working on. So organize things how they make sense to you, okay? Organize things so you can take insights out, that you can take information out, that you can connect them, and you can do this in many, many ways. And today we'll be talking about visualization also. And we'll start with what is the fitting interface. So now from research in a week, we're already stepping towards the interfaces. We'll talk about guiding principles of UX. So what to think about when we start designing screens and putting information on screens. And we'll talk about prototyping. So as per usual, the ones that are here, interrupt me, ask me questions, don't. Let's have a discussion. Okay, so first we'll start with a fitting interface. What means a fitting interface? Means that it's fit for purpose. So anytime we are designing an interface, we have to ask ourselves and our users, what is the point of this interface? What type of content will there be on this interface? So there are a few juxtapositions here. So for example, we have to think about the material, the content that we are presenting. Is it very plain, or is it data and it's structured? Because that means it will look differently, it will be presented in a different way, it will be designed in a different way. What kind of language are we using? Is this something that we're building for like experienced users, for experts in the field? Will have specific language that only they understand, or is it something that is for general population and the language should be as plain as possible? All of these are design decisions. Is it something that's superficial, so just kind of short snippets of things, or do we want it to be immersive? So for example, are we building Facebook or are we building Substack? Different purposes, different interfaces, different ways to present content. Is it straight to the point, something that I should know right away? Or is it something that, I don't know, we're building YouTube and we're trying to get people to watch the next video, stay in, go down the rabbit hole? So can you think of any other that would be based on content? Like an example of. Let's continue and we'll talk about it later. And so we talked about content, so how to put different things, what to think about when we're starting to put things on the screen, right? And then we have styling, which is a separate thing. Again, should be dense, it has a lot of information, or should be very spacious. For example, I had Substack before. Is it something that I need to read? I need a lot of line spacing. It's something that I'm immersed in. Or what kind of style does it have? Is it very expressive because it has a lot to do with branding? The branding is important, the feeling is important. Or is it something that has to be very utilitarian? I don't know, we're building a healthcare app where there is no time or space for like fancy graphics and animations or monkeys giving you high fives that used to happen when you sent a campaign out in MailChimp and things like that. So always think about what's, again, the purpose behind it, who you're building for this. Should we think about clarity or should we think about exploration? This is the same with the content, and it also works with styling. Should it auto-update content or not? Is it something that's very fixed? Is it something that needs to be happening in time as I look at the site or at the app? And of course, functions. What do we want users to do? What do they want to do? What kind of problems are we solving for them with this app? So is this app made for consuming? Again, like Facebook or Instagram or things like that, or Substack, or for creating? Is it a tool like Miro or, I don't know, Outlook even, things like that. One of the interesting ones is this one. Is it a quick stop or does it have to keep you engaged? So there is this assumption that when we're building apps, that one of the important metrics is how much time does a user spend in the app. And many companies are trying to keep users in the app as long as possible. And that does not always make sense. Because if we solve a problem really, really well, really, really fast, why would we keep them another 7 minutes? We'll just make them frustrated. And if our value is in delivering a very fast solution to something, that's good enough. And I don't know, an example of this is I have an app on my phone that's used, you kind of create a scan by photographing a dog. It does one thing. It's an amazing app. I love it because it does one thing very fast, really well. And it doesn't make sense for them to keep me engaged in the app. I don't need news around scanning or things like that. Doesn't make sense. For them, a usable metric would be how many pages I scan and how fast and things like that. So always think also about what are the metrics of success. We have to think about, should the interface be more passive? Are we just kind of bringing it in? Or is it something that's very interactive? For example, is it tools? Is it collecting any data from the user? I think I already mentioned this because if I haven't, I will tell you at least 7 times in this session. Interfaces are our way of communicating with device. And this communication happens a lot of times through forms and buttons and things, because we give it information to for this app, for this machine to do something with this information. So does it change? All of these kinds of things influence how our interface will look like. And you probably know, you use a lot of apps nowadays. We live with our devices everywhere. Try to notice in this week, when you open different apps, how do they look like? How do they feel like? Why do they look like precisely like that? What frustrates you with different apps? What doesn't? What makes them exciting? What makes them useful? Do you have any apps that make you feel good, or is everything just there to waste time or to get something done, to make you frustrated? So think about what's a good experience for you. So this is more for designers. When we, especially those who end up in UX and UI design from graphic design background, we are very used to trying to build these pixel perfect things and building things so they look nice. But it's not the same thing. It can look really nice, but still be very shitty to use. So, and it can sometimes, many times, it can look really shitty. All dashboards, for example, look the same. But it's not about the looks, it's about what I can get from this dashboard. Can I get the right information as a user in the right time? So when we're trying to build interfaces, when we're trying to design them, when we're putting them together, we need to think about more than just the visual. There's a few books if anybody is very interested. And any questions up until now? Any comments, thoughts? Okay. We'll look at a few principles to keep in mind. Okay, so the first one is always think about the problem you are solving and help your users do the thing as soon as possible, as simple as possible. Sometimes that does look like 6 steps, for example, sometimes. But always think if you can make it as simple. This is a very old example, and the Airbnb site does not look like this anymore. But at some point, what they had above the fold was just this form. Because the things that they needed their users to do was dates, where they're going, when they're going, who is going. Only that. So that they could get to the search results of the places really fast. And if they got to there was a bigger chance that they would book the places. So it has the importance of being quick, being simple, and the action is really direct. Principle number 2, I already mentioned. Through interfaces, we talk to devices. There's actually, the most important part is hidden behind here because it's the undo button. And you're probably too young for this, but there was a time where Gmail did not allow you to unsend the email. Not sure if you remember that. I do. And it was really nice when they allowed you the option, because how many times do you send something without the attachment that you said is attached? Or things like that, or things that you shouldn't have said in an email, because things happen. So what we're trying to do is creating this feel that people control the devices, not that devices control people. So not that devices control us. Again, I don't know about you, but once upon a time when I was still on Microsoft and Windows, like I would hate a pop-up that would tell me 0. I would not understand it. It would make me frustrated and stupid and just a shitty experience. When devices try to get us to do stuff that we don't know what they mean, that means that they have control, not us. So let's try not to. Interaction is feedback. When there's, what is interaction? Interaction is I do something and I get an answer from the other side. So currently we're in this very silent interaction where you just look at me and nod, but it's still interaction because I tell you stuff and you say, yeah, okay. You smile a little, and if I go and buy burek, I order burek, I get the burek, that's interaction. So how do we bring this into the digital world? Like this. So I see what is happening, I have a feel what is happening, even if we know that all these loading bars are not real or true, but it gives me an idea, it gives me feedback of what I just did. So if it's all the alerts or confirmation bars and things like that. So I know that I did something. It's the pressing the button, and the button has 4 states. There's a reason for that, so we know what just happened, that we clicked, that there's something that's supposed to happen. Okay, so this first one is what we're trying to do is use metaphors from real life to describe things in digital forms. So for example, the bin, everybody knows it's just another folder where you put stuff, but when you call it a bin, it's very, very clear that you're putting stuff away and that this is gonna be. The problem is nowadays with younger generations, so I saw this post somewhere where some student in China asked that why is a save button or save icon, which is this cat, a vending machine with a Coke down. I was like, okay, that's new. And phones look different than they did and things like that. So again, when you will be designing about this, think about what are the metaphors for your generation, not for mine, because your generation is the user. And of course, keeping consistency through the app, which is actually a lot harder. At the beginning, we're all like, oh yeah, like you do 3 different buttons and then you use them, and then you have 16 cases that are not covered by those 3 buttons, and then you create another 5 buttons, and then this gets messy. And then we use different buttons in same ways, and the users get confused. So what we're trying to do is we're trying not to invent new stuff if we don't have to. One of the ways we can do that very easily nowadays is through design systems. We have gazillion UI kits that you can use. Figma has in the community section really a lot of them that are free. Feel free to use them. Don't reinvent. Don't do things from scratch. The question will be, nowadays with AI, even the AI, everything looks the same. So there will be a point where the differentiation will come from design when appropriate. But not through inconsistency. That will never be a good thing. So, another one that is similar to the first one that we talked about, the Airbnb, is clarity over complexity. So again, an old example, I don't know how PayPal login page looks right now, but at some point when you put in paypal.com, the only thing that you would see is a login form and a white background. So nothing. No promo text about PayPal, no ads, no nothing. Just login form saying, we need you to log in. We want to make this as simple as possible because once you logged in, you did something with your PayPal and they got money through transactions. So always think about also the business case behind it, and the good thing is if we have business goals and user goals aligned. That's a match made in heaven. Principle number 7, form follows function. If it's a button, it should look like a button. It should have 4 states. It should look like we can press it. If it's a text field, if it's an input field, how can we make it look like an input field? How can we make sure that our interface actually looks in a way that users know how to use it? What goes where? So that's why we're trying not to invent new stuff. Accessibility is one of the topics that is many, many times overlooked. Almost half of the population has some kind of an impairment, either visual or hearing-wise or things, and we should have this in mind. There are standards that we can follow. There are tools that check the things that we design. The least what we need to do, or we should do, is check the contrast. So having enough contrast between the colors and stuff is really, really the baseline. Anything else that we do is very welcome. If we start building with the accessibility in mind, it's so much easier to do it as it is somewhere down the line. Same goes for analytics and all things that come next to the code. Okay, so 2 more. Step by step. I already said in the beginning, sometimes having something simple looks like having something distributed in 6 different steps. There is this thing that was going around for, I don't know, for the past 10 years that something needs to be we need to find something in 3 clicks, which still kind of stands true if we're talking about promo websites. If the person comes on your website, yes, they should find relevant information in 3 clicks max. But when we're talking about apps which are complex, what used to happen was that we would just put really, really long forms on one page and say, oh, it's just 1 step, it's very simple. But then it gets complicated because you have validation and that field wasn't filled out and that one, and just gets really messy. So how can we help users fill out, prevent the mistakes, give us all the information this app needs, and do it in a way that's kind of nice and usable and guided. So we can always, if we manage to do that, even a form with, I don't know, 10, 12, 15 steps is completely okay. If anybody has done like an application for opening an account at Revolut or N26, had to go through a very kind of difficult process of opening up. It had many, many steps. You had to provide lots of data. But because it was nicely done, it wasn't painful. Or was it? What's your experience with this? So it's not only me who's talking. A chatty bunch. Okay, so the 10th principle is that we should always also think about what could go wrong. So we want to prevent errors. And again, this is really simple. You can tell user what you want from them. And we have these arguments that, I don't know, with passwords, it's always like, oh, somebody will be able to figure it out. If it has, I don't know, 16 characters, no, they won't. But we can tell user what we want from them. How many characters? What kind of characters? What are these requirements so that they can do this successfully? Because with each try and with each fail, our users get frustrated. We don't really want to get them frustrated at passwords and stuff, do we? So whenever we can, we help them. We always think about what could go wrong with this form, with this flow, with something. And we always enable different kinds of access to every part of our app. So different ways to navigate stuff. We over-explain, even if somebody won't read or there are people who don't read at all. We try to get the majority through. Okay. Any questions or all clear? Okay. I'm looking forward to seeing all these principles in practice in your prototypes. So let's prototype. Okay. The point of a prototype is to quickly check things again, assumptions that we think are true, just in a bit of a different way. So prototypes are built so we can learn. There are instances where we build prototypes so they can sell. But what we're building here and what we're building in early stages of product development is prototypes where we can learn. So it's another form of research. We have different loops that we go into. So we start with a brief or a spec, and we create a concept. Concept is usually, could be a paper prototype, could be something very simple. Nowadays, I still recommend you doing paper prototypes because it gets you in different kind of thinking than if we start designing right away. Especially it gets you away from trying to build pixel perfect things, and it can show you really fast how to do stuff and what not to do. So sketching is really good. And then when we have a concept, which is usually a few screens or a few flows, and this is what you will be doing in the next phase, you validate it. So how do we validate it? We talked about this in the last session. We go outside, we talk to our users, we let them use this concept, get feedback, and then with that feedback, we create a new prototype. So prototyping is an iterative process. We do something, we build something, we test it, we come back, we rebuild, hopefully throw it away. Throwing something away is a good thing here, so try to not get too attached to your babies. We do the interactive prototype, usually a wireframe or something. We test, and then we do a detailed prototype, usually high fidelity prototype, which means that it already has some color, it has the fonts, it has the pictures, it's all nice, and then we test again. So usually this is concept validation, and this one is usability testing. As we already talked about in the previous session, all is good and well in theory. In practice, depending on your research, your resources and how big your company is, it doesn't always make sense to do both. Many times we do something in between the concept and the high fidelity one, but that depends on the setup and resources availability. So I'm only telling you this because many of the students, they can come into companies and everybody is like, oh, but this is how it's supposed to be done. Yes, sure, but now we're in the real world and it's done a little bit differently because we don't have the resources. John Mida, a very cool guy, very smart. Read his things or listen to him. He said a very long time ago, actually, that if the picture is worth 1,000 words, the prototype is worth 1,000 meetings. Why? Because when we talk about stuff, words are very interesting because the words I use depict my upbringing, my experiences, how I think about the world, my mental models, and this could be completely different to someone who's sitting next to me. And when I'm describing something that I see in my head, it paints a completely different picture in theirs. So that's why we prototype, that's why we draw things, because when we look at the same thing, then it's easier to discuss because we have the same reference. Prototype is also an early version of a thing. We can prototype anything. we can prototype living differently. I don't know, for example, you want to move to the countryside. You go and spend 2 months in the summer in the countryside. That's prototyping. We know prototyping is very famous in car industry, where they do these very intricate clay models of how the car will look like before they actually build the plastic models and things, before they do the production. We can prototype a process. We say, okay, we're going to do this in this way, and then as we go, we ask for feedback and say, okay, this did not work. We need to change it for the next time. This has worked, we're keeping this. So all our lives are actually prototyping. What isn't a prototype? So what isn't a prototype? Prototype is not a presentation. So as I said before, it's not necessarily a sales tool, and it's not a description. So we're not trying to describe. What we're trying to do with a prototype is build something that we can put into someone else's hands, and they can fake click, fake tap, whatever, use, so they can actually imagine themselves in a situation where they would use this thing, so we can get feedback on a thing. And prototypes always show how the solution works. So it's not about descriptions, it's not about showing a screen, you sitting next to it and describing all of these marvelous features that your app is going to do at some point. But having a prototype is the prototype speaking for itself, showing how you envision this, but in a kind of shitty way. So you can throw it away easily when you get feedback. Has anyone seen this before? No? It's really funny. A version of this has been going around offices from the 70s of the previous century. So lots and lots of time of not really solving this thing. It's still an issue, and that's why we prototype. Because how the customer explained it and how every other employee that got into a project understood it, how it was built, how it was, everything is a version of the same thing, and everything is really different. So what we're trying to do with prototypes is also create like this shared understanding of what we are building and why we are building it. Okay, so how do we prototype? I've already mentioned paper prototypes. So paper prototypes are really nice because they are fast, and it's really easy to do complex interactions. So for example, this on the right is an actual user testing that I did with a doctor in a primary practice. So we were building, the concept was to create this kind of a tree map, something that would have a lot of different buttons and stuff. And I actually tried to create this, and this was a while ago, so I don't know, probably with AI might be a little bit easier nowadays. But there were so many options where I could put the buttons and things, and it didn't really work. I put, 8 hours into making this prototype to just test the concept. And I still couldn't find a really good way to actually do it. So then I took a piece of cardboard, and when the doctor pressed it, so it was an actual, so this was not play, this was not a workshop. This was actual user testing to validate the concept. And when he pressed my post-it buttons, I would tape new buttons and things so we could mimic what the interaction would be, and I would get actual feedback on how to build this later on, and it was really useful. And actually my CEO was very impressed by that, which was a nice add-on. So don't dismiss it as just play, and I know it looks ridiculous, but it's very, very, very useful and very easy to do. So another method of prototyping is acting out, and I hope this will work. I will show you. Will we have або имели а се bo slišal zvok?
It's no problem. Have you shopped with us before?
No, not recently, but I think I came here when I was little.
We'll just have to register you then. What's your date of birth?
23rd of June, 1993.
And can you confirm your full name for me, please?
Lucy Manon Daniels.
Lovely. Mother's maiden name?
Jones.
First car?
I don't have a car.
Favourite teacher then?
Mrs. Day.
Sorry, not enough characters.
Mr. Williams, then.
Lovely. Brown or white?
I think he was...
The rolls. Brown or white?
Oh, sorry, white, please. Okay.
Just tell me which one's got cars in.
Middle right, bottom right.
Lovely. You're not a robot.
That's a relief. I'd like them now, please.
Will you be here today between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m.?
Well, I'm here at 11:34, actually, ready for my rolls.
Did you know you could track your rolls?
No, but I'll just have them now, thanks.
You just need to agree to our terms and conditions.
I agree to the terms and conditions.
And just to confirm your purchase, you'll get a number on your phone.
Hasn't come through yet. Ah, here we are. 554762.
No, that number's wrong. Sorry, goodbye.
You've expressed an interest in buying bread in the past. Would you like some sourdough?
No, thank you. I'll just have 2 bread rolls. White, please. Thanks.
No problem. If I could take your full name, please.
Oh, this is ridiculous. I just want a couple of bread rolls. I mean, who's in charge here? Is there someone I can speak to?
Of course.
Oh.
Thanks for reaching out to us today. I'm Corey, and how can I help you?
Thank you. I just wanted to buy 2 bread rolls, white, and I was ready to buy them. I had the money and everything, but the code thing on my phone didn't work, and the first guy just left, and then the second lady wasn't very helpful, and I kind of lost my temper with her a little bit, but I know it's not your fault. But I just want 2 bread rolls, white, please. Thank you.
Okay, I'll see if I can look into this for you now.
I mean, it's literally just over...
So first of all, I'm gonna need your name and your date of birth.
Oh, this is stupid. This is stupid. I just want a couple of bread rolls.
So, what do you think?
Unnecessary.
Unnecessary. Of course, this was a skit. It's an over-exaggeration, but I think it shows really, really well how weird the communication between us and devices actually is. So, if it's communication, why don't we play out the communication with devices? I have a couple of friends in Germany where they prototyped a dating app by acting it out. So somebody played a role of the interface, and there were two people that were a potential match, and they role played how this looks like. And it's a very good way to see where your interface will fail and what kind of tone you need to use and things like that. Once again, it's really cheap, it's really fast, it's really easy. It's much easier to kind of role play a situation in the app than it is to prototype all the screens and think of all the flows that need to happen. Then we have desktop prototypes, which are usually used for mapping out systems or prototyping different interactions between, I don't know, different organizations or different departments. So not as much in the digital world, but whenever we have anything, I don't know, sending data for different hospitals, for example, or things like that. This kind of prototyping is really useful. And all of this looks like play. What we usually do is the wireframes, so the low fidelity prototypes. What is important here is that we prototype the content. So the content should not be lorem ipsums and stuff. And there was a point where everybody was like, oh, design me a website. And then designers would do these pretty screens and would be just like, oh, here will be 3 pictures. And it's always about the content. It's about what we're trying to say, what we're trying the user to do, what we're trying to help user with. We need to figure out if we understood the user correctly, which means it needs to be actual content. It needs to be actually what we want to say. It needs to be data that represents what they need to do, and they need to follow through. So we're not yet thinking about the branding. We're not yet thinking about the colors and stuff, but we are thinking about what are the things that user needs, what kind of information, in what way, and maybe at the end it will look a little bit different, sure, but we're already thinking about how to present the right information in the right way. So this is something that we want in this next round when you do the prototypes. And then we have high fidelity prototypes, which don't show well, but building up on what I said before, here we are already thinking about colors, we're thinking about fonts, we're making sure that it looks like us as our company, that it's our branding. We're thinking much more about the tone of voice and which language we use and things like that. We're trying to make them pretty. And with this, we're testing content. So we're testing the concepts and the content. And with this, we usually do the usability testings, which where the point is the interface done really well? Is everything on where it's supposed to be? Are all the buttons the right color? Is everything visible? Things like that. So I used to work at Macy. We did medical devices. And we already had like a design system with all our components and things. So it was very easy for us to kind of build a new interface, build a new concept in a high fidelity way. But at some point we realized that if we build a high fidelity one, nobody really looks at the content. Everybody is talking about, why is this button orange? And we weren't at the stage where the orange button was important. We were at the stage where we were trying to figure out if the content made sense. So we made this decision that we would go back to the wireframes so we could focus everybody who was looking at this on the content and not on how it looks like. Okay, this was supposed to be, this is a slide from the previous time, but so one of the challenges for this class is also for you to use as much of AI as possible. So try to make your lives easier, but you will have to try a few things. Today, I don't know, if you have Lovable or different kinds of things, you can create very realistic prototypes of the apps, and you can do them. You can skip the Figma part. You don't have to do the design in Figma like we did previous years, or you can do the design in Figma. So this will be based a little bit on how your teams are structured and who is inside the teams. So some people have already experience with Figma, are very proficient, use them. If not, use, I don't know, what is there's Google Switch, I think, that does kind of nice design. It's Google Material Design, but it gets you across. So whatever you can do to make things testable. Again, you can do, I don't know, you can do screens in Google Switch and then print them out and test them as a paper prototype. That's fine. You can do a prototype in Lovable and test it on screen. That's fine. You can do a prototype in Figma with UI kits. That's fine. You can do them in Figma Make. That's fine. So anything goes at this stage. What you're trying to do for your homework is, from those interviews, from those information that you have collected, find a smaller problem or an idea that solves a part of the problem and try to build it. So create a prototype in any way that makes sense to you. You can act it out. That's fine too. But then validate this with actual users. So if you will act it out, I want a recording of somebody being the interface and a student using that interface, okay? If you're doing it with, so it's nice to have pictures or something that we know that you did the tests. and all the instructions are basically the same as they were with interviews. So pay attention, have more questions ready, and I think I'm talking about this later on a little bit more. So learning versus designing. So when we're trying to learn, the fidelity should be very low. So it's paper prototypes, wireframes, and when we're very sure that something is going to work and that we're close to a solution, that something is going to we'll have this many users, we'll have people willing to pay, things like that. When we have these signals from the market, then we build the high fidelity designs, because that requires a lot of work. So the more sure we are, the higher the fidelity, but then also the learning curve is going downwards because we're already very sure, right? In the beginning, we need to learn, and we need to learn fast. So this is also something about a prototype. We had this thing where we taught people to throw every single prototype away, because there are things, first, so we don't get attached, and it's very easy to get attached when you spent, I don't know, 40 hours in Figma polishing your frames. There's hundreds of frames already there. It's really hard to throw all of this away and start from scratch. So again, what we're trying to do in these first phases is learn as quickly as possible. Even having more than one prototype is fine, or having more than one flow in a prototype. That's also good. Okay, so is this already it? What you'll do in groups is this, a fitting interface. Oh yeah, so you don't have to do the validation until next time, but then until the next time. So until next Monday, you need to have a prototype. Any kind. So in any form, way. It should end up in your FigJam or your Figma, whatever you sent to Splitna Učilnica. There needs to be, if it's a Figma prototype, there needs to be a link. If it's, you know how this goes, okay? So just make sure that we have some access and that we saw that you've done it. And when you are creating your first prototype, think about all these different things that we talked about today. So what is a fitting interface for your solution, for your problem? Is it something is it an app that's teaching? Should be immersive, should people read? Is something that there's a lot of resources where they need to explore? Is it a learning journey? Is it think about how can you help your user achieve something, solve this problem that they have. I will add this. If you're going to build with AI, or with any other tool. It doesn't have to be low fidelity design. Okay? So, but really focus on the content. Don't overthink how it looks. Just what's in it. Any questions?
So are we going to submit the new link, or do we have to do the previous link?
So you have one link of FigJam, and link in that FigJam the thing outside. So make a section saying prototype and then have a link in there. So you have all that you do during these sessions in one FigJam. So we can navigate through all of this. Anything else? Does it seem like a daunting task? No? Maybe?
I can do it, so it shouldn't be too hard.
Okay, I like the ambitiousness. I appreciate. What about everybody else? Yeah? Somehow? You excited to do this? Okay. So because we have time, and how did the interviews go? All right.
Yeah,
Did you learn something?
we did. We just got 3 interviews.
Okay. What challenge are you working on?
Finance.
Finance. Okay. Any fun insights?
We don't know almost anything about finance.
Ah, interesting. Okay. Okay. What about other themes? Any fun insights? Something that surprised you?
We have finance too.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people understand or at least know about the concepts,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't know how to put it in practice.
Okay. Interesting. I'm just gonna join you a little bit closer. Okay, so will you be solving the challenge of putting it in practice? Okay. Do you already have an idea how?
Yeah,
Yeah?
we have an idea for that.
Okay. Cool. Fun insights. I'm looking at the 3 of you.
We have career success. It was actually interesting that a lot of people already have their career path picked out.
Yeah?
Yeah, and a lot of people already have work, and they just want to kind of continue that.
Okay.
So it's not a lot of. I thought it would be more like people work now just to get some basic experience, and then they would go some completely other way, or not completely, like still in the same field, but they would still change the job. But it seems like they already got it figured out.
Okay. So, were there any challenges that you still see that you can work on?
Maybe, oh yeah, we got one. Maybe just that so the workplace would describe more specifically exactly what they do. So like a day in the life of how the company works.
Mm-hmm.
So if they do sprints or whatever they do.
Okay. An idea if you have, because you are a very ambitious group, as I can see, talk to somebody who's senior, because there's things you don't know when you're still in school that you need, and you only realize them when you're in the market or mid or something. Talk to somebody who's senior or somebody who has done hiring, especially from the because they will give you interesting insights if you want. Like that's an extra step. Fun insights. Nothing? What have you learned? Nothing surprised you?
I mean, they were saying that a lot of things. That they wanted like the app to be like personalized to them.
Mm-hmm.
Recommendation based on what they study and everything.
Okay. So kind of a career guidance? Okay. Cool. We already spoke about this, but try to be careful about what people say they want and what you're going to build for them. Those are two different things. You need to be the one who figures out in what way you can deliver the value. People don't usually know. That's the... I already told your group because we spoke on Wednesday. This is what Ford meant. If I asked the people what they need, they would say a faster horse. And then he built them a car. And now in industry, you have this interpretation where this is like, oh, we don't need to talk to people because they don't know what they want. They don't know what they want, but we still need to talk to people so we understand their motivations and things behind and give them things they did not know, that they could not envision. That's why we're here. Okay. Any fun insights?
Not really. I mean, we were doing a survey.
Okay.
And they were just answering questions about like what do they think about jobs and do they care about their competition and stuff like that.
Okay.
And they said they haven't faced any competitions. That was like fun fact, I guess.
Okay. How many answers do you have?
How many answers?
Yeah, in a survey.
Like, I'm looking at like 15.
15. At least 15 more to have statistical significance.
Yeah, we tried.
Try.
Because we tried.
Talk to people. I mean, even...
We did
Yeah.
interviews too, but this is just a survey.
Okay. So extra point for the effort if you did it next to the interviews. But yeah, definitely should talk to people. The most important skill that you can learn in life is talking to people and selling. Because you will be selling everything, all your solutions, all your code, all your efforts, all your how good you are for the company to hire you. Everything is sales, and sales is not a bad thing. So that's a little bit of Monday wisdom from a senior here. Okay. Any questions still? You kind of know where you're going. You'll see if you'll know where you're going. That's the prototyping phase. It's normal for like this part, from the interviews to kind of the tests, and also even after the tests when you'll be building, it's normal to be a really messy process. And it kind of says that you're doing something right if you're not completely sure. It's better to be unsure and test and find out from feedback than to be extremely sure and then be very disappointed when people tell you that that's not what they were looking for. Okay, so consultations on Wednesday online. Book them until tomorrow. We can talk about your projects. I'm there. Also, I appreciate one group already booked for in advance for every week. So, job well done. And next time we'll talk about validation, about testing. And then on the 22nd, we'll have consultations live here. So no kind of lectures from me, just giving you feedback. So by that point, you should already have a nice prototype that was tested, some feedback, so we can, at that point, and then the first week of January, where we'll have consultations online, where we can really do a nice version for your presentations for the final exam. So we can build on them. Well, we were super fast. So that's it for today. Thank you for showing up.